Hello everyone, I hope you can hear me. My name is Vatsil, and thank you all for joining for us for the session. Uh, Without further ado, I would just like to introduce our faculty for today, Dr. Akashdeep Bharadwaj. He has around 25 years of experience in the security domain, ranging from academics to professional experience, having worked in the likes of companies like British Telecom, and he's currently a professor of UPS of cybersecurity, and he's going to talk about security in much detail. So, sir, over to you.
Thank you. Good morning. Uh, so let me start on the session. It's a pretty interesting session, thinking like a hacker. Okay. Now, when we say thinking like a hacker, what exactly comes into our mind and what exactly should we doing? Okay. So we look at a few things. We look at some scenarios also. Okay. So, and I'll explain you what is cybersecurity, the need for cybersecurity. Okay. There are a few levels of internet. Okay. So I'll just touch upon them. We'll also look at cybersecurity perspective, where all cybersecurity can be applied or is being applied. Okay, what are the type of various cybersecurity attacks? Okay, we look at some hands-on sessions. Okay, we look at the trends on 2020 and beyond. We'll also look at something called as bug bounty. Okay, and what are the rewards that you can get out of bug bounty? We look at some roles and how to become a security professional, or at least start moving towards that field. All right. So the definition, the official definition for cybersecurity is basically protecting internet connected systems, okay, which are having some hardware, software, network, programs, data, or any information. Okay. Now, when I say data and information, right? So data is primarily anything that is in raw form. Okay, and out of that raw form, you know, you analyze and you bring out something which is important, relevant, useful for you. That is basically called as information. Now there's a lot of field beyond information also. If I start to use that information, right, from data we got information, and from that information we analyze it in such a way that we start to take some relevant decisions or good decisions which are benefiting us, ensuring that our systems work efficiently and everything is fine. Okay, so that is basically called as intelligence. Okay, so data, information, and the last region or last point that you reach out is intelligence. Okay, so we were looking at cybersecurity. So it basically protects your hardware, software, networks, programs, data information from all sorts of various attacks. Okay, which can be data breach, which is somebody coming in and taking out all your data. Okay, identity thefts. Okay, which means somebody unauthorized way or in various other ways getting hold of your user ID and password or your OTP pin or anything, and then assuming your identity and logging in various domains, profile or portals wherever you are accessing them, and then working as if, or contacting people, your friends, your contacts, as if you are the one who's actually doing it. Okay, also doing damages, right? During most cybersecurity attacks, a lot of damage happens on hardware, software, even on networks. Okay, unauthorized access, right? Somebody not allowed. For example, you host a website for your friends or just a couple of people, but there are other people who are trying to access it in a very unauthorized way. Those who are not allowed or not, they shouldn't be there, but they have some way to get inside. So that is where we you protect against. Okay. Now, how do you protect it? You use something called as a combination of process, practice, and technologies. So process is a basically a plan that you have. Practices is what you do, operations, day-to-day operations, day-to-day activities, and technologies are tools or even people, using different ways of combating all these attacks and protecting your hardware, software, networks, programs, data, and all these are assets, right? Now we call them assets because asset is something that has a value. Okay, so An asset can be even my friend, right? Somebody who loans me a lot of money whenever I need it. Okay, that can be a very good asset for me. My hardware, okay, my laptop, which has a lot of RAM, okay, which basically or hard disk, which basically is having a lot of spaces, okay, or disk size, that is also an asset. Okay, so cyber security, that is a basic definition. Now we're going towards becoming a hacker. Okay, so just bear in mind this definition. Okay, so the idea is to protect from various thefts or these identity breaches and unauthorized access using process practices and technologies. Now, why do we need cybersecurity is primarily because we all of us live in a what is called as a digital era. Okay, you would hardly find anyone who does not have a mobile phone or who's not on the internet or at least touching some form of the internet in one form or other. Now you use your mobile phones, laptops, desktops, various handheld devices to search, browse, email, even book cabs. Okay, book a hotel, book your tickets, your travel tickets, right? Which can be home for your going home or air travels or train travels. You also send, receive, and money. Okay, or even you order food. So anyway, any domain that you look at now, this what I'm talking about right now is just basic people like you and me, right? I'm not even touching the enterprise level or the global level or the corporate level. Okay, so which is why as normal people, as common people, we constantly continue to use the internet. Okay, now when we use the internet to do various things, okay, we generate a lot of data. Okay, now all this data actually is saved on the cloud-based systems or somewhere in a data center, which is basically called as the internet. Now, most people have multiple devices to be online, right? So, for example, today I buy a laptop, say an HP laptop. Okay, next I buy a Dell laptop. Okay, and then I install my operating system, start using it, install some applications, MS Office, Adobe Acrobat, Photoshop, and then I continue using it. Okay, and it works fine. It doesn't give any problems. Okay, but what we forget is these systems or devices that we buy, they are not secured, right? If I forget to install an antivirus or a firewall or even just forget about devices or systems, right? Let's look at devices. So if I buy a webcam, okay, now that I install it outside my house, okay, which maybe just monitoring whoever is coming inside my house or my area, and then taking a feed of that. Okay, it's recording all that is happening outside my house. If that device is not hacked, is not hardened, it can easily be hacked. Okay, and we'll see how. Okay, so which is why unsecure devices with a lot of people actually on the net, it becomes a golden age for hackers. Okay, so this is your mobile phone, you got so many apps. Okay, now this is basically what a data center looks like. Okay, when I say it's cloud based, somewhere in the air, nothing is in the air. Okay, it's basically internet is basically a combination of a lot of networks, right? A lot of local area networks joined together to become one big internet. Okay, or one big network which is called as the internet, globally connecting each other. Okay, now these internet, okay, or the cloud-based hostings basically have something that is called as data centers. The data centers are basically offices for people. Okay, you basically have your network switch, routers, and other network devices connecting one location to the other, and then it has servers which are storage based, which can be a database or any application server systems which are being used by various users. So this is where the users come in. Okay, so you generate a lot of data on your phone or your laptop, mobile, Twitter, Facebook. That is actually saved on the cloud, cloud or cloud-based systems. So now after I talked about data being generated, right? Just in 1999 or 2019, this is what happens in just 1 minute, okay, or one internet minute. Okay, in Facebook, 1 million people logged in just 1 year in last year. Okay, around 18.1 million texts were sent. YouTube, 4.5 million videos were viewed. There were a lot of apps downloaded. Okay, 3 lakh 90,000, and Instagram, tweeting, Tinder. Okay, 188 million emails were actually sent. Okay, Twitch again, streaming. A lot of people stream videos. So in every 1 minute, right, 41 people, 41 streaming were done. There were some smart speakers, 180 speakers. Jipping again is a GIF which people used. Okay, Jiffy. So 4.8 million per minute were being used. WhatsApp was coming up at that time. Last year it wasn't there. Now it's in 2020 it's huge. So 14.6 million messages were being sent every. Now this is just 1 minute. Okay, just look at the amount of data. Now this is being generated by people like you and me. Okay, now imagine a hacker or anyone who has a malicious, attitude getting hold of any data. It can be Netflix, it can be from Google or your Facebook data. Okay, and then trying to use it in malicious ways, which is why this digital age is actually a very it's a very rich age or a very nice time to be if you want to become a hacker. Now, from 2019 to 2020, okay, the per day statistics we look at, so 500 million tweets, 294 billion emails, 4 petabytes of data on Facebook, okay, 4 terabytes from each other, from every connected car, okay, 65 billion messages on just on WhatsApp. Okay, 5 billion searches were made on Google and various search engines. Now, by 2025, right, the estimation is that around 463 exabyte of data every day will be generated. Now, I'm talking about, petabyte, terabyte, all these billions, exabyte. But what exactly does this mean, right? So let's see how much is this 463 exabyte. So that's actually an equivalent of 212 765 957 DVDs. Now this is per day. Okay, so imagine every day outside your house you have so many DVDs, stockpiled all in a huge way, and every day, right? Not 1 day or 2 days, just every day of the year, right? Again, so much data, great time to become a hacker or great age for hackers. Okay, now let's look at the levels of internet. So when we say internet, right, the normal people like you and me, okay, will look at YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Wikipedia. We'll also do Google. So we might do some shopping, so we'll use Amazon. If I'm on the on a professional area, I'll use LinkedIn. To view news, I might use NDTV, right? And the other common Instagram and all these things, right? So all this is what is termed as the surface web. This is an area where most people, almost 99 people of the world, usually stay. Or whenever you say I'm going online, I'm online, I'm using internet. So you always use something called as a surface web. Okay, this is the first part of the internet. Next is something called as a deep web. Okay, that is where academia information, organization specific financial records, scientific records, government sources or legal documents, medical records are usually here. And what this deep web basically means is that you need some access or some ID to get inside and access those data. For example, medical records. Okay, now when you go to say a hospital, say Max Hospital or any hospital with Medanta, and you give your blood, they do some testing. Okay, and this is a this is your ID. They give you a long jumbled up alphanumeric ID, and this is a check your reports after 24 hours. They'll be available on our website, right? Okay, and I go along with you. Okay, now since I don't have that ID, I'll not be able to check. Although if I know the URL, the link of that medical hospital, I can go to that medical hospital page, okay, where it says enter your ID to get your report, right? Now anyone who has that particular ID enters it and then access those reports, which may say positive this that your blood sugar levels and all these things, right? So specific medical information is available only for people who has that particular ID or who gave that blood for sampling. that so websites like these where you need some ID or some way which can be also a user password, right, are basically called as deep web websites. Okay, so your bank account numbers, okay, your university login, for example. So if you have a school, that school is allowing students to enter remotely. Okay, so and you enter your ID password, okay, on that school website, and you get inside. You look at all your submissions, your credentials, your any certificates, marks, grades, assignments, whatever quiz you gave. Okay, what is the new happenings that is going on within your inside your school house, for example, not all over the school. So such information which is available or accessible only by you, right, once you give your ID password or some way of authentication. Such websites are basically called as deep websites. Even, for example, financial websites. So SBI or HDFC, all these websites, they require you to enter your password and ID, okay, and maybe receive a OTP. Then only you can see your credit card number, credit card details, or what amount is there on your bank account, right? So all these websites are basically called as deep web. Okay, now when we go further down, there's something called as a dark web. Okay, this is where all hackers and illegal things are happening. So all illegal information, which can be drug trafficking, hacking tools, or there's something called as botnets. They are available for hire. Okay, you give them money, and they'll loan you all these things. Uh, then illegal porn, political parties, private communications happening between various high level people actually happen right only in the dark web. Now, if you look at all the sizes, right, surface web is pretty small, right? Deep web is relatively big, but the maximum chunk is actually taken by the dark web. Okay, and normal people like you and me cannot access the dark web because there's something using this called as Tor encrypted websites. Okay, Tor is basically the onion router. Okay, so you need some form of encryption or protection, to get into and access those websites. Otherwise, they don't allow you to, even open. And now, from a cybersecurity perspective, now this concept is the cybersecurity is actually applied on various contexts across business, across domains, anywhere that you can think. Okay, now this can range from general business operations to very core, hardcore technologies and research. So cybersecurity basically touches application. Okay, it also touches information security, right? Network security, day-to-day operations, encryptions, access control, end user education, and disaster recovery. Okay, now what this basically means is cybersecurity helps you protect all these things. Okay, now if you say, for example, I'll just take one example. So end user education, right? Now, if I know how to secure myself, okay, or if I'm able to quickly find out whether my system is compromised or not, or if there's a virus coming into my system or not, and that basically means is I'm aware, so I'll be able to protect myself better, right, as compared to some untrained user who may not have any knowledge, right? So that is basically where cybersecurity comes in, and it is being applied across different domains. Now, there are various type of cybersecurity attacks that keep happening. Okay, the most famous ones that right now is happening, and it's a evolving field. Okay, so today there might be some attack, tomorrow there'll be something else, right? So every 6 months, 3 months, the technology changes, everything turns around, and there are various type of attacks. So first one that is happening right now is phishing, right? Now again, phishing is basically sending somebody an email or SMS with a link or an attachment and saying, hey, click here and you will get so much money, right? And if you click that, you are presented with a website, okay, which may be saying authenticate with your Google ID or Gmail ID, or at least, or if at all it is a cloned website, it will show you the same cloned SBI or PNB or HDFC bank site and saying, enter your ID and then take out all your data or critical data that you enter. Then there's something called as man in the middle, right? Now, as the name says, somebody sitting in between you and the internet, okay, and then hijacking and taking out all your information, gathering all information that you are sending to the internet. Then the SQL injection. This is like injecting something inside a SQL is basically a database. So and database are storage systems, right? So injecting some threads into that database to corrupt them basically. Okay. Then there's distributed denial of service attack or DDoS attacks, right? So services are what these hosted websites provide us. For example, Gmail, right? It provides me email services. Then there might be, say, a bank website that provides me financial services, right? Now there are ways to attack these websites, bring them down, or at least make them unusable for authentic people or authorized people to use. So if I have a Gmail ID or a Gmail account, and I want to access my email, and if there's a denial of service attack going on that ID on that portal, that ID would not be able to access it because it'll start denying the authenticated user or authorized user, right? Then there's another attack, cross-site scripting, password attacks, AI powered attacks, artificial intelligence powered basically, which basically means is the system thinks on its own, right? It attacks and then sees, okay, the adversary or the target is pretty strong, and I he may have found that machine is attacking it, so that machine may have found some logs, some details, which can be used to do advanced level attacks. So the artificial intelligence takes, say, and if there are 10 types of intelligent attacks or advanced attack, it takes only three, depending on the scenarios, depending on the logs it gathered from the initial scan, and then goes out to attack instead of a human doing that, right? Drive by attack is basically, I put some virus, malware, or a malicious script inside a USB drive, keep it somewhere where it is accessible by everyone, most people, and then I leave that USB drive disk and then go away. So anybody finding that disk quickly says, "Oh, I found a USB." Okay, inserts it into his system. Okay, as soon as that is inserted, the USB executes what is called as a autoplay or auto run system, and then that quickly corrupts the whole system. Then that can lead to a ransomware attack, which basically means is the system got corrupted, okay, by a malware or a attack. Then you need to pay some amount to retrieve your data. Okay, another attack is eavesdropping, which is basically listening to somebody talking on phone and giving out some specific information, or just doing a password attack, for example, which is using brute force, which is guessing, and then using dictionary words to guess a password. So these are the various types of attacks, and at different levels, at different scenario, depending on the user also, these attacks are basically executed. Okay, now if I go a little technical, so there are 7 layers at which we operate, okay, on the cybersecurity of the internet. First is a physical layer. There on that layer, sniffing is done. The second is data link, where spoofing is done. Okay, and between network and data link, man in the middle attack can be done. Transport and network layer reconnaissance can be done, or denial of service can be done. Between session and transport, hijacking can be done. So session hijacking, which is basically means that you are opening up, say, Amazon.com, okay, and you authenticated, you logged in, okay, and you are do buying and selling and some doing some interaction or transactions on the commercial e-commerce websites. So there are ways to steal your session, okay, and quickly log in as yourself on other machine, on somewhere else in some other location, and then hijack your session. Then there's presentation, which is basically phishing. Exploit works on application layer, right? Exploiting a vulnerability, for example. Okay. Now, how do we think like a hacker? So when I say thinking like a hacker, even in your normal day-to-day life, right? Just forget computers, forget IT, forget cybersecurity. Always look for gaps or weaknesses or ways to break into things. Now, these can be as simple as there's a house, and you need to get inside unnoticed. Okay, there are cameras, there are guards, there are dogs, and all sorts of protection is around that house, but still you need to get inside. So that is what hackers or people with bad intentions always start thinking. Look, so they look at gaps. Some door is open, some weakness. For example, a window is very, fragile, it can be broken. And then how do I break into things? Say, for example, there's a lock on the door. Now that door is very strong, but the lock is very weak, right? So if by one hammer, just hammering once, if I can break into that lock, that is how you start thinking, or at least changing a mindset. Then there's something called as browsing and searching, right? So when you browse and then you search, right? So anyone knows the difference between browsing and searching? Okay, so I'll tell you. When you go out to the market, right now you are just walking around on the market and you don't know what to buy. Okay, but you're still there thinking that if I see something interesting, maybe useful, I'll buy it. Versus, so that is basically browsing. So you're browsing, you're just walking on the marketplace, looking at all the window shops and all those windows displaying shoes, clothes, food items, cars, bikes, but you still don't know what to buy. Okay, and you're just walking around looking at things. There's another thing called as searching, right? Now you know you want to buy a blue jeans, a straight fit jeans, which is acid wash, okay, from Levi's. Okay, so there are three or four parameters or features that you want in your jeans, and you only want to buy that. So you'll search for a Levi's shop, okay, and then you go inside. You say, I want such and such size. It should be stonewash. It should be blue. It should be this. So that is basically browsing versus searching. So specific, looking for specific things, specific items, specific logs or information is basically search. So hackers always search, right? By people like us, we just browse. Then there's something called as information versus intelligence, which I told in the earlier sections also, right? So you have data, right? You have some information, some papers, something, some books, document, photographs, but when you sort that out, right, that becomes information. And when you try to figure out some good information which can be used for making some decision, is basically called as intelligence. So that is what a hacker does. So they collect data, right? They sort, or they they try to find out some information from that data. Okay, and then they look for intelligent or intelligence related information which can be used making some decision. Now, cyber information, when I say should be timely, it should be relevant, it should be actionable, it should be verified and accurate. So that is how hackers look at information, right? Whatever information or whatever logs or anything they have, is that timely? Is that recent? Like say just 1 week ago or 10 days ago or 5 days ago, right? Not 2 years, 10 years, behind time. Is it relevant, right? If, for example, a hacker wants to attack a bank, for example, so he look at some information that is related to the bank only in the last few years or last few days, few say hours. He look for some relevant information, okay, actionable, whether he can do some action on that particular website. Is it verified, right? So he look at 10 different things and verify that log, that photograph, that information from all of them, and then say, okay, it's verified. It is, that basically means it's the information is accurate, right? And then when you think like a hacker, so hacker basically has become bad term, but when cybersecurity started, it was not actually a bad thing to become a hacker. The hackers basically were people who would look at various systems, various operations, various infrastructure, machines, applications, or websites, find out bugs and vulnerabilities, and then report them back to the owner. They might get some money, they might not get some money, but they would do it for free. And that is basically where the term hacker came into being, saying somebody who brings down or tries to look at systems and then helps other people to secure themselves. So the hackers you would usually do these kind of things. However, with time, people with malicious attempt, intent or bad attitude said this is a very good way of actually doing ransom amount or earning a lot of money. So again, these guys are experienced, similar to the good guys. So they became what is called as a hacker, and the good guys put a term ethical in front of it, so they became ethical hackers. Now the whole technique of thinking like a hackers are basically people who protect us, right? So is so the idea or the race is always to stay one step ahead of these bad guys, which are basically called as black hats. Okay, now these black hats are malicious guys. The intent for them is always to try and hack down things, bring down things, attack somebody, bring them harm, right? So how do you think you can track vulnerabilities around yourself, around your house, around your office? You can also detect any changes that are happening in systems, applications, or your services, or any new employees, or any policies, right? So that is, if you look at various ways, so that is where you can track and detect changes and then start thinking like a hacker, for somebody who wants to protect yourself. So let's look at something. So all of you have mobile phones, right? Android phones, iPhones, and all these things. Now, do you know what your devices know about you, right? One is your password, right? You enter into a lot of websites, Gmail, Twitter, Facebook. So your mobile devices, okay, they know about your password. They also know about your credit card numbers. They also know about your social security number or your PAN card or Aadhaar card number, wherever you enter that. That all that logs is still there. They also know about your deleted files, your bank account information, your recent files that you opened, your text messages that you do, your phone calls that you call up people, right? The name and addresses of your contacts, of a contact manager, or anyone whom you are keeping it on your phone. So they also look at your current location and recent location. So there's a website called as activity.google.com. If you open that, log in with your ID. Okay, it'll actually tell you wherever you went in the last 10-15 days and how many times you go there, frequent visits, even without opening any account or something. So Google basically keeps tracking all these things. So they know your current location and then all the recent location, wherever you are, traveling the most. So if I am able to, take somebody's mobile phone, for example, see the number of or the amount of information I can, you know, gather from his phone, just one phone, right? So passwords, credit cards, numbers, deleted files, what text he does, whom he calls, what are his friends, their names, their addresses, his bank account numbers. And when I say bank account numbers, it can be transactions that he may have done recently, access websites, where he goes, where he stays, what is his current location. Okay. Now, social media, so this is basically, trying to gather information about people. Now we can use social media to gather some interesting information. Now, since everyone knows, and understands, internet is very good. You should have all your, advertising and all these things on the internet, right? Now, so if you use things like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, for example, Instagram, for example, but the problem is most people use these from a enterprise or a corporate level, but they don't know how to do it, or what do I do after that? What are the efforts that you deploy? Are they actually working? How to measure what is being sent by social media, or how does it fit into your big picture? For example, there's a bank or there's a small company, for example, you have a startup, right? And you use Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all these things to send out information about yourself, and this is what I do and this is how I'm, you know I can provide you services. But how do you measure how people are looking at it, what information is there, and how to make that data actionable so you can take some changes, right? So for example, people are saying negative and positive about your Twitter or your Facebook posts. How do you measure that? So let's look at that. So there's a website called socialsearcher.com. Okay, you can also use your own mobile phones, laptops, if you want. Okay, so the website is social. covid-searcher.com. Okay, now I can say, for example, COVID-19 Delhi. Okay, for example, I'm looking at social media sites on just this two websites or just these two searches. Okay, so this what this website does is it pulls out searches real time at various links and various other ways and looks at whatever I type inside and then brings out information from the internet on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. Okay, so let's see what it can get. Okay, so it found something, right? Now, if you look, it mentioned 506 to 233 users. There's also something called a sentiment. Okay, 7:3. Okay, I can also have some detailed statistics, but let's see this. Okay, so this is basically, I can also select language. For example, if I just like say Hindi or some specific language. So if you look at all people, saying various good and bad things about COVID-19 Delhi. Okay, I can actually figure out and find out what is being said. So this is basically something that I told you about browsing and searching, right? Now there are two keywords here, right? COVID-19 Delhi. Okay. Now if I do a Google search, okay, I can also do that. Okay, so I'll show you. So I do a Google search, a simple search, right? So see the number of results I get, right? Versus just this, I got 11 because I was just wanted to look at social media or the specific things that I want. Okay, so that is basically a focused search. Instead of going around, running around everywhere, humanly, see, it's not possible to read every result and then find out what is going on, right? I just want latest ones, specific ones and specific information only. Okay, so anything specific, I just get that, right? Okay, any questions, anything that you want to ask me?
So we actually do have a question. Um,
Yeah,
just a second. Yeah, we have a question from Candice Pereira asking, to be a hacker, you must know only coding.
yeah, I'll come to that question later. Yeah, once I finish my session, then probably he would get his answer. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So right now I'm just telling you the power of social media, or the power of using cybersecurity to find out interesting information from the social media. Okay. So we do a Google search and we got so many results. We do specific search, we got specific things, right? Then I can also do filtering, right? Now this is just basic search, right? Now I just got some information, but I don't know what to do about it. Okay. So if I do filtering, right, I just want to have social media with photos. Okay. So if I say apply, okay, so I would have only that information which are having photographs. Okay, now this can also be very powerful to use. Okay, another way I can use is if I want to find out people saying just negative things about my two keywords, right? So there's on the net, or when there's a campaign going on, or people are typing something good or bad about, now that can be true or false, right, or fraud information. The cyber police or the cyber cells, they perform something that is called as Twitter checks or Twitter campaigns or Facebook campaigns. So this is how they come to know whether somebody is saying negative or positive. So if I go back, right, there were 506 mentions. Even that is a lot. Okay, so I kind of do it, segregated them uh, and did a filtering. for just negative ones, right? So if I do this, so it becomes 47. So out of 506, I came down to 47 only. So people saying bad things about any specific things. For example, in say Saharanpur, so there's a religious ceremony going on, and somebody starts tweeting, and it spreads. So and people keep adding and forwarding their own ideas. Now to figure out who is saying what and who is saying negative about specific things, we do something called as a so I work with CyberCell also. So this is which is why I can relate that. So when you have a say and on WhatsApp, you'll have all sorts of uploads and all these things. Now we don't want all that. That is noise. We just want people saying bad things or negative things about specific information. So out of 506, we just got 47. Now that 47 also can be filtered. Okay, people posting any specific things, any photographs or any those kind of things, and then perform any specific search. Now this is live search, for example, so I can also do another search if anyone has any other query. Okay, okay, if you can tell me a keyword, I can do a search about that. I can also for example search about people, for example John Smith, right? So let's search about John Smith. So it'll look at all Facebook, all locations, and then with people whose name starts with John Smith. Okay, and then it'll give you an option. So like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, all these things, wherever John Smith is there. Okay, if I want to search about people, I can also do that and then see what they are saying about, or what they do, what are the what is their designation, what are they doing, right? And I can also export this information, right? Let me do a Google search on John Smith. Okay, so I copy paste the exact word. Okay, so many John Smith, right? Now, so Google for browsing, Google is pretty good, right? It's a good search engine. But when I want to do a specific search, related to my own work that I'm doing, then you need specific things which only cybersecurity guys come to know with experience, with time, with different process, with different tools. So this is where, and I'm not even using any tool. I'm just using an online search, specific information system. Okay, right. So let's proceed further. There's a lot of interesting things that I can tell you. Now, I told you about gathering information, right? So that is in cybersecurity terms called as footprinting, right? People who walk, somewhere, they have their own footprints on the ground. So the hackers or people, the good or both, so good and bad people, so black hats and the ethical hackers collect information about targets, and the idea is to collect this information without actually alerting them. So the people have walked across a garden, for example, and they left their shoe prints. Okay, so we start collecting information from those shoe prints and not inform all those guys. So now what can we find about people without alerting them, right? So we can find their names, address, phone numbers. We can even find background information, do a background check. We can also find criminal records, public records, for example. So there are a few websites. Okay, so let's look at them one by one. One is called as privateeye.com. Okay, now private eyes again, it gives you information about people. Now this is if you primarily it works for people who are in US. Okay, so for example, if I say um, Donald Trump, and he stays in Washington. Okay, and if I say just say search, well, so this is probably denied. Anyone else has any ideas? I'll be happy to do a search there. So for example, I wanted to search about Ronald Reagan, for example, right? Now, if I buy, so I need to buy some services and become the member. So they would give you all information about Ronald Reagan, right? For example, this guy. So I have his email ID. Okay, he has 3 email IDs, his phone numbers, his relatives also. Now these can be his son, wife, daughters, granddaughters. He's 63 years old, right? I can also view details. Now I can't, right now I can't, because it's just a free website and just giving basic information. But just by giving a name, you know, you can find out so many numbers, people's, their relatives, who they are. So now, and I'm not even warning them, right? So this is basically called as footprinting, right? I'm using information that is available on the net, you know, and it just took me, 5 seconds. For example, if this guy was my target, okay, 49-year-old Ronald Reagan, lives in Texas, Extel, okay. So he's also lived in Albuquerque and Waco. So excite.com, AOL.com, he has 3 email IDs, he has 4 phone numbers, and Tina, Audrey, Dora, all these are his relatives or associates. So I can do a search and say yes, and then find out also. I can also find out about anything about Tina, for example. So I say, okay, I found out Ronald Reagan, okay, and Tina, that's his wife, okay. So that's a confirmation if Tina is actually his wife, or so she also stays here. She has 2 email IDs, these phone numbers, right? So this is the way you can use people search, and in a very easy way, in a few seconds, you can find out information about a lot of people. You can also do there's something called as a truth finder. Right now, this is like a white page finder about people. Okay, it's like a yellow pages. So, uh, okay, so I say find about him. Now, whenever you do a search, okay, so you need to do that search from multiple sources, because when I say you need actionable, verified, accurate information. So when you do this search on 2 or 3 websites, different websites, then only you can confirm that yes, that information that we have is actually accurate. So we did the same search on other websites, so we got some more information, right? So his phone numbers, even his physical address. See, I found his all these addresses. So this is basically what is called as a geolocation or physical address for whenever you're working on cybersecurity areas. So there are two areas, right? In cybersecurity, we have a when machines communicate with on the internet, you need cybersecurity or IP addresses to work, and this is basically called as a search on physical address. There's also any who, right? I'm sorry, we are just going slow, but I wanted to give you all information that I can. Okay, again, similar site, similar thing. It can present. You give it a name, you give it some information. I'll give you 411 also. Okay, 411.com. You can also run it on your own. There's nobody blocking you from doing it, but it's a very good way of searching out for people, right? For example, I say Jon Snow. Okay, let's find out if and find out somebody called Jon Snow. So it found out 1,000 people. I can also refine that search. If I say, okay, Jon Snow is probably 50 years to 60 years old, and say apply. Okay, so it applies and gives me a little more, specific results. His phone number is available. His relative information, his criminal history is also available. So if I become a member of this, I have to pay some amount and then become a member, some few dollars. It'll give me all sorts of information, right? See, a lot of them have criminal history. So, right. So where they live, their address history, where they are currently living, where they had lived, all information can be easily, found out. There's another way of gathering information about target route. If you're looking at people, right? If I want to look at how a website looked, say 5 or 10 years, when it was launched. So there's something called as web.archive.org. Okay. This basically tells me how a website looked, say 5 years ago, 10 years ago. or when it was launched, right? So this is the Wayback Machine. So if I look at Facebook, okay, so this is how, so it gives you all information, right? So it started in 1998. All these dots you see here are changes that started to happen. So let's look at this point in time, or say here, okay. So it basically takes something called as snapshots. So in 2008, so these were the dates. So in at a specific point of time, say 7/24 in 2008, February 6th, oops, it failed for some strange reason. Okay, that's because probably my internet is a little slow, but it should come back. So we're looking at how Facebook looked, okay, in 2008. All right, so this is how Facebook looked in 2008, right? If I go to 2014, okay, so say for example 8th March 2014, 7:12 p.m. Let's see how Facebook looked. Okay, so this is how Facebook looked in 2014. All right. Now, how do I search for unsecured devices? I told you it's a golden area or golden age for people like hackers, right? So let's do a real-time search for some devices. Okay, there's a website called as shodan.io. All right. So this basically uh, is a website that gets you access to, it's like a search engine, and for any device that is on the internet it can give you information about that. So let's look at Windows 7 machine. Okay, now we all know Windows 7 operating system has been expired by Microsoft. They've said that we don't support it anymore, please don't use it, right? But there are still people who are using it, right? So let's look at this. It found, if I do a Google search for Windows 7, it finds, or a Shodan search, it finds out all sorts of systems. Okay, so there's one in Moldova. Okay, it's a small location, and it gives me an IP address. Okay, all these are ports. So whenever you see 80 or 443, you can actually open that website. Okay, so let's see. Okay, it's forbidden. Now these are live, so I'm not even sure which ones work, which one do not work. Okay, so this is connecting. So it's basically a Windows 7 machine. All right. I hope all of you can see this, right? So I'm trying to connect to a Windows machine. Okay, a small, this machine, and it's live, right? So all this, I can type the administrator password, and in a few minutes, see, I reached to that box. If I know the admin password, or at least there are tools that can crack this admin password, I can easily do something and then get inside the machines. And it's a Windows machine in Windows 7 operating system, so I know there are no patches, nothing. I know the vulnerabilities, the way to get inside, and it's unsecure. So I can type anything if I know the admin password, and then get inside this machine. Right? So in just few seconds or few minutes, I can actually quickly go there, go to any this thing. I can also do a search for, say, washing machine. Now there are smart devices which are actually, people control them with their phones, with their mobiles, but what they forget is all these machines might actually be vulnerable. So, and people like me, we can always reach out if they are if they are not secured, if the password and everything is known. I can actually go out and find out. See, so connection failed. Okay, this one's down probably. Okay, but just from doing a basic search, right? So what I got here was an IP address of a machine or a system. Okay, I found the location. Okay, in US Charmy, I found two ports. Ports are basically ways where we can get inside what services are running. So it is running some Apache HTTPD. I also found a version, right? Now for hackers, this information is very good because I found a source, which is the IP address. I found ports. I found the version. Now against this version are something called as vulnerabilities, right? All these. See, so all an issue discovered on this, if executed, it mishandles, and I can hack into a machine using these. Also, all information is there, right? And the sad part or the good part is I also have the code here, right? So if I read that code, I can actually see what is going on, what is being written. So all information for to hacking, anything will be here, right? I can also do a second search if you see here. Let's see this one. Okay, this is in Ashburn, US, right? Again, a lot of ports are open. Okay, so let's see if I can open it or if it is open. Now remember, this is a washing machine, right? So yeah, this one is open. So it's probably so in US they have these shared shops which are offering washing services. So it's probably one of those machines, smart machine that is being kept. I can do a select something. I can also get inside and do some changes. For example, see it says 8080 and 8081 ports. So let's see if those ports, what are they? So it's a Xiaomi app. Okay, so that means somebody is using this IP with this port for a mobile app. So through a mobile app, if I use this port, I can get inside or at least control that port. See, okay. So Xiaomi, that's a mobile Mi Max or a Mi phone. If I know the password, I can get inside and or at least I can hack into it and then control that machine. That can be stopping it, rebooting it, or changing all those parameters, whatever a washing machine is being doing that time. So and this also can be hacked, all these things. So I can do admin password, and then I can also do a brute force attack that I showed you, or a dictionary attack, which would keep guessing the password or at least trying different ways, combination of password, and then get inside it. All right. Also, there were some locations that I kind of got additionally. So if you look at this, so it's a D-Link camera. It does not have any password, right? So this is basically it's 6 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. there. So that probably means it's a European country. Okay. And if you see this thing, it probably means it's a airport or a helipad. Okay, so it's a D-Link camera. I know the model. Okay, no password, and it's actually showing me all information about that city or the time. Right now, it's a surveillance camera that is running. Okay, and it's a live video, live feed that is coming up. Okay. Similarly, using this Shodan, I can find out so many information, a lot of information. I can also look out for, say, so this is Zextel, which is basically a network storage box or a server. Okay. Again, now it gives me this thing, right? Admin and a password option. It's available on the internet. Okay. So it's a desktop, it's a machine or a device which is storing a lot of data, right? So NAS means network attached storage. 326 is the model, right? Now I have tools which if I run, it'll give me or guess the password depending on the complexity, and they tell me what the password is or what is being hosted on that website, or quickly crack the password, and then I can also get inside this. All right. So let's look at some live attacks going on right now. Okay, I told you about unsecure machines, right? Now hackers, what they do is they usually attack others. Okay, and then they try and capture those machines. All right, and then attack others. So basically what they do is from their machine they would go out for an unsecure machine, capture that, or and the user does not know quietly. Okay, and then use those machines to attack others. So this is what you're seeing right now. Those green dots are actually unsecure machines being used by hackers to attack others. So even if somebody finds out that he is being attacked, so he'll probably go after these users and not the actual attacker, right? So this is basically a looking glass. It's a threat map that is telling you right now what is going on. And if you look at the statistics, okay, so all these infections per second, right? These are live attacks that are happening. The Sality and mobile Trojans, these are the various botnets or malwares at this point of time that are available. And the countries all over the world, India, China, Iran, right? India is around 25% of the machines in India are unsecure. They are being used to attack others. In China, 21%, Iran, 7%, South Africa, 6%. So all these machines or all these systems from different people being used by hackers all over the world, to attack others. So this is basically what is called as botnets, right? So these machines are under control of the attackers or hackers, and then the bad guys are actually using your machines and my machines to attack others. Okay, so let's continue. There's still a lot of ways. I can also do this threat map from Checkpoint. So Checkpoint again is an IT security company. They also come out with various ways. So and so this is basically cyber attacks that are happening right now. Okay, if you look here, you'll see attackers and the rate. Okay, from where the source and destination. All right, which are the targeted companies. So in the previous slide, we looked at botnets, which is user machines being controlled, and these are actually the attacks that are happening. So from Belgium to Japan, okay, Moldova, Hong Kong, all these attacks are happening at this point of time. So per day, so many attacks are actually going on, right? Which is why we always say the internet is not a secure place. It's one of the most unsecure locations or places to be in. If your machine is not secure, you'll always get hacked. Okay, another one from FireEye, right? Now, FireEye is again a security organization, right? They usually provide threat maps or threat information on what is going on, what attacks are going on. So they provide it based on these domains: financial domains, services, consulting, telecom, manufacturing, insurance. So they look at it from a domain perspective, right? You can see new attacks from Ukraine, new attacks from Turkey, from China, from Thailand, Egypt, China. All these are actually going on live. Okay. So what are the trends that we see? Let's look at these. So basically, email and phishing are increasing. Okay. Skill and capacity building is there, which means there's a lot of scope for new people to come in, a lot of scope, opportunities to get inside cybersecurity. Now, what in cybersecurity right now? So beyond 2020, I feel IT security will be the number one driving force. So application security, network security is already almost saturated. There are a lot of people, a lot of experience people, experts who are doing that. But IoT security, Internet of Things, okay, that's a new and upcoming field. That is where we'll need a lot of people with a lot of exposure experience. Another domain or new domains that are coming up is driverless cars or drones, right? Now, a lot of people have started to use this. Once it becomes commercial and people start, adopting it in their day-to-day life, for example, driverless cars. So if I am a hacker, if I'm able to hack a driverless car, or a drone, so that will also be a big thing. threat hunting, which is basically right now attackers attack us and we keep defending ourselves. So soon, or the new trend that is coming up is going after the attackers. So threat hunting is hunting the threats or hunting the attackers. Then use of artificial intelligence, machine learning in cybersecurity. So that is also coming up. Some new attacks that are expected to come up is crypto miners, which is basically you would have heard about bitcoins. So machines that I showed you are bots which are attacking each other. They might not attack, but their CPU, memory, disk, the computing power might be used by attackers to do crypto mining and search for more bitcoins all over the world. And whoever gets those coins, they get some percentage, right, as a reward. Then new malwares will keep coming in. State-sponsored attacks will also, keep happening, so or increasing at least. So that is the trend that is being, seen. So when I look at, all across all, technologies or departments, uh, for example, telecom services, technology services, hardware services, software, all these would grow, right? 50%, 23%, 5%. But the emerging technology, cybersecurity grows at 104% actually. Okay. And within cybersecurity, you have IoT security, IoT hardware, software as a service, IoT connectivity, robotics, drones, AV, VR, virtual reality. Okay, all these things will continue to grow. So the maximum benefit or the maximum potential that is coming out is from cybersecurity. Right now, what are the roles? So analyst, specialist, engineer, compliance, security operations, incident detection, vulnerability assessment, risk analyst. All these roles are there, right? So you can always look at these roles and start training or start mentally being prepared for such roles. So again, experts, defense expert, legal advisor, IT project manager, vulnerability assessment analyst, system administrator. So you have so many roles and skills that you need over there, right? Now for skills, you need threat. You need to understand threats. You need to understand technology. Somebody asked a question, how do I just need coding? Well, yes, you do need coding, but you also need to know the technologies, operating systems, tools, how things work, architecture and design, right? You also need to know risk management. You also need to know identity and access. You also need to know cryptography. All these involve coding, technologies in one way or the other. Okay. So there's something called, now let's look at something in a few minutes on bug bounty, right? So when you, so this is for ethical hackers, right? You find a bug or you find problems and you get paid a lot. So that is basically bug bounty. So if you look at all these snippets, you'll see so many hours, so many dollars being paid out to people who have found vulnerabilities, reported them in a good way, okay? And then they go get these rewards, right? Now, anyone knows what this is? Okay, so again, this is being offered as a reward, right? So it's a Tesla Model 3, electric car, okay, automatic car and computerized and everything. So if you hack into its computer system, they'll give it to you for free. So this is an offer by, Tesla as part of a bug bounty reward. Okay, and it's a it's a million dollar car. Okay, so Google also pays a lot for security researchers. Okay, they almost paid 21 million, in just in overall, and 6.5 million in 2019 alone. Now that is again rising. So Google also pays a lot. Now, how do I become a security professional? So there's no set path to becoming a professional. You need knowledge. The question the gentleman asked is, you need operating system knowledge, you need networking knowledge, database, mobile servers knowledge, right? You need formal training in universities like MIT and so many others. You need training from all sorts of institutes, wherever you can get it. CompTIA, EC Council, Cisco, Cybery, Eureka, YouTube. Then you need programming language, yes, scripting, Bash, PowerShell, okay, Python, which actually runs across all operating systems. You need to know PHP, SQL, HTML, which are web-based languages. Where so websites being hosted, you need to know how, or what is there. Then you need to know JavaScript. You need to know how to manipulate the browser data that is being sent and across between user machine. And a good way is to seek experience in lab, make your own lab. Okay, do a home setup, work as an operating OS admin or a network admin anywhere. always stay updated. Read all about the news that is coming out, hacking that is coming in. Read in LinkedIn, blogs, bug bounty, anywhere you can. Okay, always connect with others, the cybersecurity professionals, your college seniors, your professors, whoever can give you that information. All right. So basically, that was a little, refresher about cybersecurity. Any questions? I'll be happy to answer them.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. We have just a couple of questions, and I think we have already reached our time limit. But we'll none take the questions quickly. Uh, would you want to talk more about the coding skill as a hacker? There are a couple of questions where they wanted to understand if coding is required and is like compulsory for them to learn if they want to get into cybersecurity.
Sure. So see, as cybersecurity professionals, you are not going to write code. You might write your own tools. Okay, attack tools, for example. You might customize somebody's code and make it your own code tool. So yes, you do need to know about the languages, but if on a scale of 10, at least 5 or 6, you should be able to get 5 or 6 marks out of 10. I don't say you become an expert on programming languages because you'll not be writing everything from scratch. So in IT today or cybersecurity or on the internet, everything is available there for free, and most of it is there, and you need to search and not browse, right? So if you know scripting, a bit of scripting, if you know a bit of Bash, PowerShell, Python, and you get hold of somebody's, a tool, and usually people give it for free. If you go to a website called GitHub, GITHUB, so GitHub basically offers all modules by people for sharing their code. So you download a code, you modify it, you use it. So you just need to have basic level of at least a little above average information about programming.
All right. Another question we have from Thomas John is that if someone is new to cybersecurity, what kind of certifications would you suggest to go after to start with security?
So, John, I wouldn't go after certifications right at the start. Yes, they are important because that actually displays your skills and your competency. But try and get knowledge about operating systems, networking, databases, how they work, how do mobiles work, right? How do servers work? How is hosting done? All that information. That will be useful for people who are looking to get into cybersecurity, and then you get a formal training which basically is like a BTech degree or a tech degree in cybersecurity. So that will be very useful, and then go for trainings because the avenues are huge. Operating system is again a huge field. Networking is again a huge field. Another field that is coming out is IoT, right? So the scope is huge. You cannot do everything, so or become an expert of everything, but all these things are there. So and then you need to know the basics, right? Networks, how systems work, how are they connecting, how is data being sent from internet to your machine, how does it go back, how do sessions work. So that information is more important, the basics are more important. Certifications you can do anytime, anywhere, all these things free. For example, Coursera, for example, if you go to coursera.org or coursera.com, they are offering their whole trainings and certifications for free. So but get the knowledge, right, and then go for formal trainings also.
Sure. One question from Satyendra is that private key is only used for celebrities or for everyone?
No. So, so there's no celebrity or any VIP in cybersecurity. You and I also can create public and private keys. So these keys, as we call them, are basically cryptographic files. Okay, anyone you can create them. Okay, there are two types: public and private keys. Okay, so it's like it's so they are think of them as your data being kept inside a box which has lock. Okay, now that lock has two keys, one is a private key and one is a public key. So with a private key, I lock my box and then give it to my friend. Okay, saying hey, you can use this. And along with that box, I give him the public key, which is being available and shared for everyone. For the public, general public. So whoever has that public key can actually access my logs or my box. So there's no VIP or any, people like stars or something. Anybody can, you and I can create public keys and then share information.
I was actually asking about Private Eye, the website.
Oh, acha, acha. Okay, sorry. So you said key. Okay. So privatize. Those websites, primarily the websites I showed you are basically US based organizations, and majorly people who are famous are there. But if you take services from them, that is, you become their member, you need to pay some annual fee. Then primarily for US, anybody when search, and ideally, yes, the guy should be famous, or infamous, so then you can find out more and more information about him.
Sure. So we'll just take one last question from Sandeep. He says that he's from a non-technical background and he wants to know what are the steps to get into cybersecurity role and where to start.
Sure. So Sandeep, first of all, if you look at the screen, so although there's no set path, I cannot tell you, do one, two, three things, and Sandeep, you'll become a cybersecurity professional the next day. So, but yes, start getting knowledge of operating systems, right? How does a Windows 7 work? How does a Windows 10 work? You know, and then how does a server work? And then get into networking. How do systems communicate with each other? Get into databases, right? How is information stored or retrieved, right? So for example, when you go to a bank, you log in with into a SBI or HDFC bank, and then it shows you your credit card, your account number, all those so much money, right? How is that actually coming out and retrieving or displaying? How does that work? How do mobiles work, right? And when I say mobiles, the operating systems. So once you know about these things, try and get as much information there. If you go to YouTube, for example, or Cybrary, there are so many free tutorials, free videos on basic security, basic information. So all information you can get it from there, and then go for formal training by the universities, which have a formal course for 4 years.
Good. So yeah, I think we are done with the questions and we've already exceeded our time. Thank you so much once again, sir, for joining the session and sharing your insights and inputs. I hope everyone enjoyed this session. Uh, let's in case you have any other questions, do reach out to us or our team at Amity, and we will be helping you out with much details about the program as well if you are interested. Until then, just take care, stay safe.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.